Okay, so now we're talking about how can, where's my lemon? Sorry, that's my peppermint. How can lemon essential oil balance these elements? We talked about water, metal, wood, and earth. So how can the use of this essential oil, right, balance these elements and allow us to channel and clear these emotions? Okay, so we're going to walk through kind of each aspect here. Okay, so there is a diagram down a little bit further below. You can scroll down and my video will continue to play so you can have this in your field of vision. But you can see on the diagram on the top, there's the teal circle that represents wood. And then there's a black arrow that shows how wood promotes fire. Okay, and if we think about that, wood is an energy source, a food source for fire, right? And then we see fire in the red circle promotes earth. So when things burn, it builds up nutrients within the ground to build up the earth. It promotes the earth. Then earth is that yellow circle, and earth promotes metal. So when we have good soil, we have good minerals in the soil, and it promotes the growth of metal within the structures, right? And then we can see metal is the white or light gray circle, and it promotes water, right? Because water is sticky, and water likes to travel the path of least resistance. So if there's metal in the middle of the earth, it's going to create paths and channels for the water to flow through. And then we see water promotes wood, right? Because water promotes growth of plants, which is what the wood represents. Okay, so then we see inside the circle, there's a little star figure. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and explain the star figure. So if we come back up to that top, the wood piece, we see a downward facing arrow to earth. Okay, so that means that wood suppresses the earth. Okay, so if we think about this, when plants are growing, they're taking nutrients and minerals away from the earth to support and sustain their growth. Okay, then we see earth, the yellow circle, right? It has the arrow to the water. So earth suppresses water. Why is that? Because earth absorbs it. It absorbs it, it expands it, and it holds it. It stops it from flowing, right? And then we see the water element, and the water element has the arrow to the fire. Okay, this is kind of a no-brainer. Water puts out fire, it suppresses fire. Okay. Then we have the fire element, which suppresses and controls metal, right? Because fire heats metal, and it stops it from having the strength and the effects it would normally have. Okay? And then we have metal here that's controlling and suppressing wood. So if we think about this, right, we use metal tools to chop and cut into plants. So in order to prune them, to control them so they're not overgrowing. Okay? So we have this cycle of growth and sustaining and nurturing along the outer rim of the circle. And then we have this star of checks and balances to keep a healthy flow of all of the elements within each other. So when these elements are balanced in the system, we have this natural desire to nurture and grow them. And then we have this natural checks and balance to keep them from overgrowing within the system. So what we've been talking about in the last section, or the last few videos, I should say, the last few topics, has been what happens when we have an overabundance an imbalance of one of these elements within our system. Okay, so now you can kind of follow along there in your course where we're talking about specifically what does lemon do to help strengthen the wood and the fire element. How does strengthening the wood element and the fire element help balance water and metal and wood and earth in the system? Okay, so water, right, is our fear emotion. And when we're working with water, you can see in the image below that it suppresses fire. It indicated by the arrow, right, that goes from fire to water, because water puts out the fire. So when we're adding direct strength to the fire element, it's going to combat this suppression of the fire from this overabundance of water. Also, when we strengthen the wood element, right, you can see the wood element on top. So when we're strengthening the wood element, it allows a natural promotion of fire, right? It naturally grows and strengthens fire as the wood is built up, okay? And the other thing that I thought was interesting is that when we are looking at that, right, it's two things, that water is supposed to promote the wood and wood is supposed to promote the fire. But when we have this overabundance, it has the tendency to want to just suppress, because it wants to go somewhere, it wants to do something, to be effective, to make a change. So that's the change it's able to take, because we've shortchanged it and we've cut it off from its natural flowing progression. Okay? So now kind of switching gears into our metal element, right? And the metal element is that sadness and that grief space. So when we're looking at balancing the metal element, we can see again that the metal element suppresses directly the wood. So the lemon essential oil is building up and strengthening the wood within our body. Okay, so we're combating that continued suppression and allowing the wood element to now nourish the fire, right, which can then suppress the metal. Okay, so this has a twofold action. It's directly strengthening something that the metal is suppressing. It's nourishing then something that could then suppress the metal. So this is very, very effective when we're working with that sadness and grief family of emotions. Now we're going to turn to how balancing the wood element can promote strength, number 3. When working to balance the wood element, what are we doing when we're talking about bringing in more wood and fire? So when we're working with the wood element, right, and this is that anger space, we want to think more about what we're doing within the fire element. So the fire element would normally be nurtured by the wood, which is one of the reasons we want to increase wood a little bit, because we want that natural nurturement. We're introducing a good positive wood, not a toxic overabundance of wood within the lemon essential oil. So it's going to help us nurture fire, and we're naturally strengthening fire as it is within using this essential oil. And so this is going to in turn nourish the earth element, which the wood has been suppressing. And that's going to bring better balance within our system. Okay? Then looking at how we're going to bring balance into the earth element, right? So the earth element, we have the wood and the fire. So we're going to look at nurturing and focusing on strengthening the wood, because the wood naturally suppresses and controls the earth. And we're also going to be strengthening the fire element, which allows, again, the natural, normal, healthy nurturing of the earth element within our system. Okay, so this is how using the lemon essential oil, which strengthens both wood and fire within our system, is going to help us bring balance into these meridian imbalances and into these organ imbalances. If you've noticed that you had any of them from the previous section, this essential oil will be very effective for you to help balance those imbalances out and to create some wonderful change in your system, both emotionally and physically.